Ain't nobody used to give a damn. Yeah, I had to go and make a different plan. Yeah, guess who didn't get included? Even though you made me better, yo, I strictly do it for the fam.
Alright, we are live, everybody!
Yay!
Woo! And welcome back, everyone, to What Grinds Our Gears.
Today's topic, Art Imitating Life. Or, as I said last night on the broadcast, it could be life imitating art now. The way stuff's going on in the country.
Not wrong. Not wrong.
I suppose, though, depending on which year you were born or what decade you grew up in, you could say the same for just about any of it. It is America, after all.
Yeah.
So this all started because you noticed, or you were watching Uncharted 4.
Yes. Right? Yeah. It was bless you. It was during Aaron and Jenny's live stream, which you guys should check out, www.twitch.tv/selfino1. And when we and while they were streaming it, I was kind of feeling like I wasn't looking at numbers and particles and codes. I was actually looking at real life people in a game. And I kind of felt more attached and angry because of it. So
yeah, you did show some of that anger towards Sam there.
I sure did.
You know, do you think that... Now, I know that game sequels have always been a thing. Always. I mean, since friggin' Super Mario Brothers. Or Mario Brothers. But do you think that because of the quality of the resolution in the games now, and the graphics, and not just that, but the ability to tell a story the way that the artist wants to tell the story, adds to that whole leaning more towards real life?
In a way, I actually do.
Because I remember when I played the Mass Effect series on PS3, I was immediately drawn in, and it wasn't, it was the beauty of it. And then the fact that you could change the course of the story, or the way that the whole series, all three games were tied together through the story. And the choices that you made in each game determine the outcome in the third game, which was freaking awesome. But I relate to Mass Effect more like you are to Uncharted 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because growing up, I never really was like, oh, Crash Bandicoot, I so relate to with the whole spinning around like a giant tornado like the Tasmanian Devil, or oh yeah, Bugsy the Cat. I could totally relate to this guy jumping through interdimensional portals. Yeah, and I identify with cat people.
Or, sorry, what my original point was that I was getting to, besides the graphics, with the sequels, there is now, like, it seems like you don't make a game to be a one-off anymore. I mean, a lot of independent game makers are doing that. You know, they're usually the Flash games or the games that you find on the PSN store that are the cheaper games, like $8 games, that 2D side-scrollers and whatnot. But, like, the big, like, AAA games, I've noticed now, they're not... every time one comes out, they're putting it out there to, like, launch a franchise to tell this massive story. You know, Uncharted, you've got 4 games, and every single game is tied together and shares the same universe and has the same characters. Almost like getting attached to a character on a TV show, or... I guess the way certain movies make you feel, like Star Wars or even Star Trek, how the fan base is just so attached to those characters. Do you think they're doing that to imitate life, or do you think they're doing that for the paychecks?
It's kind of a catch-22 in that regard, because there are companies that just want to do it for the money because they see other people that incidentally do that. Like EA.
Yeah,
Yeah, EA. Like EA taking a look at various different companies that incidentally made these big series of things that may or may not correlate with one another for sequel bait or for continuations of other universe stories, and they tried to then create their own mythos. From there, it's just kind of, it depends on what company that you know is the one that's making the big intertwining story and lore.
Right.
Not you, Square, because you make a lot of mind fucks with your whole continuity.
Oh, yeah. How does it make you feel? The whole Art Imitating Life. I mean, dude, I know this grinds our gears, but do you? I enjoy it. I feel if I'm playing a game that I can, like Uncharted, like I've stated on the streams many times, I wish that I could have been like an Indiana Jones, you know, if it really existed like that. That would, you know, there are people out there that do that. And I forget the name. There's a couple of shows that we watched that they're basically like modern day Indiana Jones. It's not like full of terrorists and people searching after this treasure for money, you know, like Uncharted, but
I get what you mean, Aaron, but to answer your question, it kind of depends on the medium now that I'm getting older and older, because yeah, I really like relating to certain games like Mass Effect or Uncharted, Shenmue, and a little bit of the Yakuza franchise, but there's the other spectrum where, because it's imitating life so much, it also brings out stuff that I really hate, that I kind of hide from humanity.
Well, and it also brings out like this stuff you hate in general about just real life. You know, people screwing other people over all the time. Apparently, we're getting to that point in Uncharted 4, because if I'm judging your comments about Sam right, he's a dick. So we haven't gotten to that part yet, but that's okay. I'm guessing Sam is going to screw Drake over somehow, and I feel it coming more and more now. But we're not going to talk about the future of Uncharted yet.
No.
Oh, I did tell you there is a new Uncharted coming out.
Yeah, it's based around Chloe and that one Afro lady from Uncharted 4.
Yep. I don't know how I feel about that. That's one thing I do hate. I mean, I understand it, and I understand that sequels, even after like the main story has been told, like Mass Effect. When I heard that there was a new Mass Effect coming out, but it wasn't going to be around Shepard, you know, it irritated me. Because that's the whole franchise, is Shepard. You know, it's his story.
I get what you mean, Aaron. That was how I felt when they said Infamous Second Son was happening, because I was so excited to see Cole McGrath come back because of the whole lightning bolt striking down at his coffin, like as a revival thing. I was like, oh god, it's gonna be so much like a comic book game now, but all of a sudden, no, he did.
Yeah, and I get why companies do that. I mean, not everybody can have a franchise like Metal Gear Solid or Halo, where you have the one protagonist throughout the entire series of the game. Okay, Metal Gear Solid did kind of stray away, because in the last couple of games, it's not actually Solid Snake that's the protagonist. It's
I mean, technically, it's still him because of the whole clone thing.
Yeah, clone. It's technically the last one that's Big Boss, and it's actually telling the story of the first game, which is where he builds his utopian society outside of the United States, and blah, 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 blah. But I didn't mind that. I mean, other than David Hayter getting completely thrown out of the building and letting Kiefer Sutherland do his voice, whatever. But I get so attached to the characters. Like, and I have read the reviews of Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm kind of wary.
I mean, if you're looking for like beauty and good music, it's okay. I'm not gonna say anything else, because I'd rather you judge it for yourself.
Well, from what I had read from the reviews, the fighting and what was it? The beauty of the game is pretty much those are the two things that are combat and looks.
Oh yeah.
They're saying the storyline is horrible. There's no, the characters are shallow. There's just nothing there. And I'll probably end up playing it, but I'll probably rent it instead of buy it, which is what I'm sure that they want to hear. But The Last of Us is another one that me and Jenny both got really attached to those two characters. And when they came out and said they were going to do a sequel, but they didn't know if it was going to involve Jenny, what's his name?
Joel.
If it was just going to be around Ellie or if it was going to involve Joel at all, me and Jenny were both kind of like, oh, Joel's got to be in it, But after seeing the trailer, I'm not worried anymore. Anyways, is there anything else? I suppose movies are a form of art, right?
Yeah, because everyone that I've even talked to recently, because I don't make it a big secret that I'm very picky with my movies lately. That's kind of why I was mostly excited just to see Logan as my first official new movie review of the year, because I've grown so attached to Hugh Jackman's portrayal of Logan, aka Wolverine, for so many years now, where since I used to love the comics as like my own little superhero soap opera, where just like, my stories are in store! Oh god! I was just...
Right. Oh man.
I just felt so amazed by how they went through all of these different occurrences and made their own separate timeline from the main timeline to give a darker, gritty, more realistic Western sort of feel to one of fiction's greatest anti-heroes.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really become a superhero in the comics until, Christ, the mid-'80s, late 80s, maybe, I want to say?
Around the mid-'80s.
This is really getting away from us, B. Okay, quick fire question. Name a movie that you absolutely hated, not because it was a bad movie. Hell, it could have been a great movie, and I have a perfect example. I already had one in mind when I thought of this question for you. A movie that you absolutely hated because it crossed that boundary from being a movie to being like, I fucking deal with that every day in life. Why are you making a movie about it? I go to the movies to get away from it. You know what I mean? Old Boy?
Old Boy.
See, I still have to see that one. And they have the original version on Netflix.
They do. But
it's not the new one.
But
mine. Explain.
I was gonna say, just let me explain before you get into yours, Aaron.
I'm sorry.
No, it's my fault. It's my fault. I'll take responsibility. But the reason I pick Old Boy out of every other film that I could think of is just that I kind of know what it's like to make the hardest sacrifice for revenge and be blinded by the overall manipulation that other people do to you. Where I'm not going to give any names or say how the outcome happened, but some person was using some dear friends of mine because they wanted better product that I could provide for them in my younger days. So I spent months trying to get revenge on them, but it ended up causing a lot of warped things to happen to my psyche that I still can't shake to this day because of how twisted their whole mindset was. And the more I was diving into Old Boy for my review of it, the more I kind of felt shuddered, not by the twist ending of it, but by how haunting it kind of crossed the line into memories I try to keep buried.
I don't have as personal a connection to my movie, other than the fact that, and I get it, I understand, and remember, these are all just opinions. They have no bearing on, and should have no bearing on what you think of your favorite movies or anything. But
oh no, we're not implying that at all. We're just We're just shooting the shit to say our opinions.
Yeah, right? So mine is No Country for Old Men. I really, really liked that movie up until the end. And for a blatantly obvious reason, you know, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's torture porn, but I would say it's borderline. Because you have a protagonist who's not really a protagonist. I mean, he did steal money, but he did it for a noble cause, can you say? So, whatever. Anyways, and they torment this guy through the whole frickin' movie with the seemingly unstoppable force chasing him. And then other outside things. I don't know if you've seen it or not, or how many out there have seen it or not. It's a really good movie. The problem I had with it, and I understand you can't have every movie have a storybook ending and it be happy or anything like that.
Yeah.
I get that. The main protagonist in the movie is Josh Brolin. And like again, he's not like the best person. You know, but they make it very clear that he is a war veteran in the movie. He's a veteran. So he knows combat, he knows close quarters combat, he knows how to fight. You know, and he knows how to use that urban surrounding to his advantage because he's a soldier. And then you have another protagonist in Tommy Lee Jones, but he's like a secondary character, really. He's like the detective that's following along this case, but the protagonist is actually Josh Brolin. And then you have a beautiful performance, and I forget his name. I'm gonna have to look it up, or maybe Vic and cite it later when he posts the video. Who is the epitome of, like, he's a freaking psychopath, sociopath.
I wish I remembered his name. Fuck. Now
all I can think of is Benicio del Toro, and it's not him.
Future me, just put the name and the poster up like you're probably gonna do anyway.
Anyways, the movie was great. I loved the freaking movie right up until the end, and the reason for it is nobody wins. Absolutely nobody freaking wins. There is you know, the movie's been out for so long, I shouldn't care what I say. It shouldn't be spoiled. I'd recommend seeing it anyways. But I'm not going to watch it again. That's a one-time thing for me. I'm not going to watch it again because the ending it's almost like The Mist.
Oh, you know, God.
That movie was just so freaking great. I loved everything about that movie. Thomas Jane is one of my favorite, you know.
But that damn ending.
That damn ending. It just guts you. You know? You just feel empty. And I'm sorry. Jenny was furious. I don't know if you could hear her. But his name is Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. Okay, you heard that, future me? Put a photo of him up.
Anyways, it just leaves you gutted. Like you get to the end credits and you're like, what the fuck did I just sit here for 2 hours watching, having my hopes built up, getting to this climax, you know, and spoiler alert, in No Country for Old Men, Josh Brolin, the protagonist, he doesn't even die at the end of the movie. He dies like 2/3 of the way through the movie, or 3/4 of the way. Is that what it is?
It's three act structure for a film, so act one.
He doesn't die at the end. He dies before the end.
So basically, like 2/3 of the film.
So your hopes are destroyed of him coming out okay, like before the movie even ends. The bad guy basically walks away scot-free. And I'm thinking in my head, God dang it, you know, I know superheroes don't exist, but couldn't he have at least died? Like, he took out this war veteran, this guy who is just as innovative with combat techniques and how to fight as the man who is chasing after him. And they gave him a broken leg and he walks away, you know, after interacting with a kid. Tommy Lee Jones is just like nowhere. He doesn't catch the guy. He has no clue where he went or anything. Basically a clueless sheriff. I was gutted at the end of that movie, just like I was at the end of Mist, which I would recommend watching at least once again. It is a good movie.
But I think Aaron, there's just a few things is like the backdrop for how when life imitates art at its worst. And
right. Okay. And I'm sorry, V. What I was trying to get at with that is bad things happen in people's lives every single day, especially when you're talking about a story like No Country for Old Men and the way that it's working. You get your hopes built up, and you're like, God, this guy's got to catch a break. He's got to there's got to be something good that's coming out of this. And then at the very end, there's nothing, and the bad guy wins. Bad guys win every freaking day. There's people out there stealing money from other people. There's freaking mobsters out there killing, God, who knows. Well, hell, look at what Russia's been doing lately. All those Russian people dying in our freaking country.
Speaking of Russia, though, that's kind of been one of the things that's been nagging at me since we were trying to talk about this topic for the past couple of days. See, the whole negative thing that I feel about the whole life imitating its own art kind of also comes from this one comic I was telling Aaron to never purchase or look up called Holy Terror. Now, I know a lot of people out there are like huge anti anything that's non-Anglo-Saxon American because of the fact that we have an Oompa Loompa that went through racial reconstruction surgery. But I just want people to take note that for all the people that don't take that as a whole, we should have thought a lot better to have restraints planted in more seriously. Holy Terror as a comic, from when I was looking at reviews from it from my favorite comic reviewer of Linkara, kind of imitates the whole notion about what is the current presidential election. To be afraid of the other without knowing who the other is. Because terrorism does exist. Horror exists. Crime exists. And bad people do live. But the protagonist of The Fixer, which is a more violent and kind of scarring version of Batman. So think Michael Keaton Batman mixed with Ben Affleck outside the Batman costume of asshole-nish. Where it's basically him embodying what our current president is now. Someone that bullies others that just happen to be Arabic, gay, transgender, or whatnot because of an innate fear brought about throughout no real evidence about every person of that whole volume being of the same terror factor. And it annoys me to no end because no one takes note the fact that the more people make these sort of art statements around us as warnings, that they don't try to stop to think that maybe we should keep a better eye out for stuff that will be cancerous and dangerous for not only ourselves but future generations to come.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, you fine, Aaron. I was done getting on my soapbox.
Well, and I guess that's the whole thing I said in the beginning with life imitating art. It does seem, and again, I am only in a certain area of decades. I was born in the 80s, so I only have that, I wasn't living in the 40s or the 50s or anything like that. I have heard stories from my parents that are just, they sound like they're from a freaking comic book,
Oh, yeah.
But it definitely, with the comics that I grew up with the whole thing behind X-Men and the Mutant Registration Act and trying to get them registered so that they, putting them on a list so they knew who they were. That it's like reflected today. I mean, there are people out there, I'm sure, that if they would have some sort of registry, or something. And the sad part is this isn't even the first time that something like this has happened in our country or even been talked about in our country. I mean, during World War II, everybody was talking about the Holocaust and the Holocaust victims. Well, here we had internment camps of Japanese people, that all put into one, basically a giant prison. Now, granted, a lot of good, like George Takei is the best at telling his story, because he was actually in one of the internment camps, if I remember right, right? Yes. I have to reference my wife in the other room. But it's like to see it firsthand myself. Like, I read about these things growing up, and they made great stories, and they made me want to keep reading. Now it's like, okay, this is paralleling some shit that I read 20 years ago. What I'm seeing on TV looks really familiar. Now, I know how it ended in the comic. I don't want to have to go down any of these routes. We're going to have giant metal Iron Men roaming the freaking streets of Chicago and New York. Sentinels everywhere. I know how this ends. And I laugh, but at the same time, it really fucking scares me, you know? Not to the point where I'm going to go all crazy and start judging other people because of it, but it's just crazy. It just seems like the imitation is gone, and it's more art and life are, well, I think they've always kind of been one and the same, but it's just that line is kind of
blurred.
I mean, well, Christ. I mean, what is art anymore? You have that lady out there that vomits on people.
Ew.
You know, I don't get it. Somebody gets it. I don't.
I don't understand it.
Myself, I can't say it's not art, because it's some form of expression. I don't know what that expression is or how long her esophagus is going to hold up, but you know, there's some forms of art that I just don't get. I mean, and it seems like the more, what's the word? Is it existential that it gets, the less artsy it feels?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you put an apple on a pedestal and then put it in a museum of art and say that it's art and say that it's, I don't know, call it gravity, and somebody gets $1 million for people to come in and stare at an apple on a pedestal. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that that's something I've seen. It just seems like, actually, now that I think about it, an apple on a pedestal, and the name of it is gravity.
Oh my god!
I think I'm gonna submit that.
You'd probably make millions just from that. They'd be like, "Oh my lord, that sounds incredible! I'll
So
pay you
deep.
$1 million."
It's so deep. 10 seconds to think that up, and it's so existential. Newton, guy, he found gravity. I mean, it was there, but he realized that it was there, so he discovered it
And made the laws of gravity.
And just think, it all started with an apple. Oh, jeez, I'm going way off the handle now.
No. We're right on the handle. We're just riding on the edge.
I'm not trying to pick on anybody who. I picked that specific artist because not only is that act of expression, of vomiting on somebody or canvas or whatever it is, it's when you do things like that, it's detrimental to your health. You know, I'm worried about this woman's health after a certain period of time because you're literally vomiting up, was it hydrochloric acid? That's what's in her stomach, right?
Yeah, hydrochloric acid, which could burn someone to like maybe 2-3 degree burns, if not. And
that's going through your throat. And after so many times, I mean, people with is it bulimia? Are they the ones that?
Yeah, bulimics vomit up their food because they have an innate thought that they're fat.
Right, but even people with bulimia or who have suffered bulimia after so long have erosion of their esophagus because they did it so often that it causes problems. And I'm not saying, you know, art is suffering for most. I mean, look at Uh-oh. Van Gogh, right? He's the one that cut off his ear.
Yeah, my namesake that cut off his ear for art.
And for a prostitute. Really, Jenny?
He did it all for a prostitute.
Well, she was a very fetching prostitute. Maybe he didn't have money at the time. You know, artists are poor. Yeah, shush. Get out here if you're going to talk.
But,
I mean, is suffering, but I mean, I'm not trying to pick on her.
Oh, no, Aaron, I get what you're trying to say. I get what you're trying to say. You're not trying to pick on the artist. You're just trying to point out how detrimental it is for the health because of how damning it can be.
And, you know, again, we live in America, and you can do whatever the hell you want, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, you know, to a point. I mean, you can say whatever the hell you want in this country, and it doesn't seem to matter. Whether it's inflammatory or defamatory or flat out slander, it doesn't seem to matter anymore. But and so more power to her for doing what she wants to do, and if she loves it, then more power to her for that too, you know. But I just picked that one specific one because it's the easiest to go to for me, because I think, for me personally, I think that one is the least. I have trouble trying to connect the dots with art on that, you know.
It's okay, Aaron. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm not very artsy fartsy. Jenny is.
But she isn't out here.
Yeah, she's not out here. You know, V can't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Anyways. So.
What could we really say to pretty much sum this whole thing up before
Well,
we just...
real quick, we won't spend a lot of time on it, but we did the bad, right?
We did
so
the bad.
Let's do good. Let's do good. What's your favorite? And I don't care if it's game, movie, or whatever. Art Imitating Life. I don't know if I can answer this one.
Favorite art imitating life. Well, I could either answer the whole answer, or I could be a dick and end the recording right here, right now, in mid-sentence for everybody. So,
Jenny's laughing at you.
Oh, I know, because I'm trying to debate what answer to say.